Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We have a local rock star here. So Alex Smith, he's a developer here. His journey has come leaps and bounds since 2009. Alex, you're big on mindset. You have multiple projects ranging from, townhomes, multifamily, 8 to 36 plus units, luxury stuff going on over the last, few years, which a lot of people consider to be amongst the toughest in times, right, in real estate. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to pick your brain on. First off, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time, man.
Thanks, man.
And spending some time with us and allowing me to pick your brain on all these things. I know you're very much faith-based, mindset-based, and a lot of your values align right up with what we do in the podcast as well. So
that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for being in. So give us a little bit of a rundown on how you got started. I mean, you come from a construction background, right?
Yeah.
Heavy civil construction.
Yeah.
Which, back in 2010, before we kind of clicked record, you were talking about how you lost your job and things got tough, and then you kind of pivoted in a big way. So let's dive in, right into that.
Yeah. So, first of all, construction was the only thing I knew.
Yeah.
Straight out of high school, 2000, I went straight into construction 10 days out of graduation from high school. So traveled all over the U.S. As a laborer, like working in the ditch, working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week at least. So had work ethic ingrained into me early. And my dad was a construction superintendent. I always just thought that I was going to be in construction. I'd just climb the ladder and work into a project manager role, and maybe I'd be an operations manager. So that was just my mindset. I'd just work, and I'd climb the ladder through that. So I did that through, basically the next 10 years was just getting beat up in the field.
So early, like 2000, 2010? Or?
2000 to 2010, was heavy construction for me. And then 2008, actually early 2009, I got a job as a construction estimator. So moved from the field into the office, and lost that job in 2010 when work was just a little slow for us. So lost that job, and I had just bought my first house 6 months prior. Had 2 car payments, wife, a new child, and my wife was pregnant with our second. So kind of a tough time to lose your job. 6 months earlier, I had gone on a fishing trip with my dad in Alaska, and a guy that was on that fishing trip asked me if I wanted a job at the time, and it was a good paying job. And I was like,
what kind of fishing was it? One of those the crazy like?
No.
We
the
ones you see on TV shows.
No,
that
man.
kind of stuff.
No, it was actually a great fishing trip. We were in Seward doing halibut fishing, and then on the Kenai Peninsula.
Yeah.
So no, not crazy out in the middle of nowhere. So I got offered a job. I was like, no, I can't do that right now. I just got married. So first thought was, I might have to go back on the road. Like, crap. So I called my buddy, and he was like, get in touch with Fred. And so I did. And he was like, I don't have that position for you anymore, but I need operators. I'm like, where do I sign up?
Yeah,
I
just anything,
I just need
right?
to make money. So I went up, and I ended up going up for my wife. She was like, whatever we have to do, like, let's just figure it out. So I went up there and ended up being up there for 45 days. The first run. My wife is at the time freaking, I don't know, 7 months pregnant or more.
Man,
Yeah.
just up and left. It's interesting how, like, during those that stack of like 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, a lot of people who had kind of like all their ducks in a row, had to make massive pivots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge relocating to just.
You just do what you got to do, man.
Yeah, it almost
make it
sounds.
happen.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a punchline. Yeah, move to Alaska, pick up a left.
Exactly. So 6 weeks there, and then came home for 2 weeks, and so we just adjusted, and it got my first paycheck, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a good paycheck."
Yeah.
So we ended up staying doing that. I moved from an operator to a foreman to a superintendent to a project manager within a year basically of being there. So it you show that you have a brain and you're willing to work, and you end up moving up. So
it's a common denominator. I think the willingness to work, right? You mentioned it earlier, the work ethic.
Yeah.
The doing the thing and actually going through the gauntlet when it comes to gaining experience. It's big, right? But I feel like a lot of times as we progress, we want to work less and less and less.
Yeah.
The people that I see, at least the ones that I look up to and whatnot. I mean, they have this insane tenacity, still within them. Doesn't matter the success level, but it's almost ingrained. Like, it's just how they do things.
For sure.
And the willingness to work and put in the work. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
In the way people perform. So.
Well, you keep adjusting your goals.
Yeah.
And as you adjust goals, you've got to get better in certain areas, and so you've got to keep working on different things, right? You're not going to keep working on the things you necessarily did to get there, right? Because you can't do the same things to get here as you did to get there, right?
Right.
So, but you just have to adjust and keep working as hard as you can. So you did that you were out in Alaska for 3 years, 3 years or so? I was at Alaska and then Canada for 4 years.
And then you decided to come back, and then is that when you tapped into real estate and kind of teed up the new trajectory? Or
so me and my wife, I came home from one of my stints, and both of my boys had Big Brother t-shirts on at the airport.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you serious?" And
wow.
Right at that moment, it was like, "Dude, we've got to make a change. Like, we can't keep doing this."
Yeah.
So, so that moment, I went back for a stint, and when I was home, me and my wife talked about, like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, what's the plan? And it was basically, I'm either my mom and my mother-in-law were both in real estate, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah. No offense, but like I'm an eternal optimist and think I can do anything, and I'm gonna figure it out. So I was like, it seems like easy enough that I can do it without a ton of outlay of cash, right?
Yeah.
Or I start my own construction company, and that would take a large sum of money and a bit of a different business plan. And I was like, I think I'm gonna go this direction.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into real estate. Literally did my last stint up there, came home, went into real estate school for 2 weeks straight.
90 hours to freedom.
Just something. 90 hours to something. You don't realize the dream of entrepreneurship and being a business owner is far more hours than it ever will be being an employee. It never turns off.
Bro, I'm telling you, man. I get comments from friends. And I was like, oh, you never work. Like, bro, I started working in 2006. I just haven't stopped.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just, you don't clock in, you don't clock out.
No,
Nope. Like,
they don't see the hours at 4:30 in the morning or at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, they don't, like, nobody sees those.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I might see you out somewhere and it's the middle of the day and I'm not at an office. No, but I'm also at my computer late at night. I'm like, dude, I'm on my phone working all day. Yeah. Like, it's just part of life.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different way of, you know, being all in, right? Like it's, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to, you know, call my own shots and, you know, call my own hours and everything. But I mean, you're still operating under this premise of now even more responsibility. Why? Because you have teams, you have people that, you know, depend on whatever you do to kind of move the engine, right?
100%.
So, not kind of, like, actually move the engine.
They rely on you. Like you are the leader.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different mindset.
So you jump into real estate in 2014. Traditional sales as an agent. And
traditional sales, went both feet in, cashed out 401k. So we had about 7 months of cash to live off of. My wife was working as a customer service rep for an insurance company. And, and she was, had 2 little kids at home, pregnant with another one.
Yeah.
So it was madness. And I'm like, okay, I'm going both feet in. Took me 3 times to get through the test. And got through the test, and I'm like, I'm licensed.
They're trained.
Now what?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Like one thing that I always get, I'm a broker, but it's something that we always see. Like, okay, cool, they'll teach you how to pass the test.
That's it.
But that's it. Like, it's you get out of this, you know, real estate school, you have no idea how to do the business. Like, that's on you.
100%,
right? To
man.
look, you know, for mentorship, to actually, you know, do the due diligence and really learn the ins and outs of you know, how to negotiate a listing, how to, you know, set it up and all that stuff, right? But it's interesting how there's so much more after the certification that just kind of opens the window. It's not even the door. It's
Dude,
the window.
so much more. So like it's 1/10 of 1%. Like, they don't teach you anything about sales, anything about prospecting. I mean, number one, you've got to be able to prospect. Yeah. So like I basically was like, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'll go do it. August, 108 degrees out. I'm door knocking 80 doors and like about to die in dress shoes and frickin' slacks and a button-up shirt, trying to look pro. Man, it was brutal. But I would say in that first year between door knocking, open houses, I did as many open houses as I could.
Yeah.
I would sit in an open house for 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I would commit that time to, if I didn't have anybody coming into the open house, I would follow up with open house leads. And inevitably, I made like $86,000 in my first year in real estate.
Yeah.
And I mean, from a salary position, that's just less than what I was making on salary before, right after I was gonna take a job coming back from Alaska at like $90K.
Yeah.
So I made just less, but I felt far more free than I ever did in a job.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, it was just growth year after year, and got to the point where, you know, we for about 3 years, we grew, and then I stayed stagnant for about 3 years, right in the like 2 to 250 in gross income range.
So by stagnant, you mean you were doing transactional sales?
Transactional
sales. Were you in
sales.
luxury at that point? Did you kind of?
Yeah. So we lived in the East Valley when I started in real estate. Yeah. As soon as I started in real estate, I knew that we needed to move to an area that I wanted to focus more on lifestyle and luxury real estate. Yeah. So we moved to Arcadia, which was a tough move for us. Like we We'd lived in the East Valley our whole time that we were.
But you moved from Alaska, like.
I didn't move from Alaska. I'm originally from Seattle, and I was living here, working in Alaska. Yeah. So I was like, dude, I would go from freaking 20 below
120 degree weather to
seriously 100 degree swings. It was insane. But I growing up in Kirkland, Washington, it was like Arcadia was the closest thing I could think of to where I grew up. Green grass, big trees, and in Phoenix you don't find a lot of that. Yeah. So that's really what drove us there. That and restaurants, and at the time I, first one in, last one out of the party. So there's lots of places to go and drink, and lots of places for Sunday fun day. So we moved there in 2015, and that's where I focused my business, was in Arcadia.
I like to think of real estate and the real estate license as the gateway drug to entrepreneurship.
Totally, it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it is, because that's what 80% of certified or licensed agents, newly licensed agents, fall off within the first couple of years.
Yeah,
like they don't research.
Yep.
Right. Most of the business out there is being done by 20% or less. I mean, that was an old stat. I think it's less now, of the agents out there. Right. So there's a lot of licensees, but there's not a lot of actually people doing the business. Right. So it's important to ask, to find out, like when as a consumer, right, when somebody goes over to an agent, like, okay, are you an active real estate agent, or do you just take the 90 hours and then you have this thing?
Well, and out of that 20% that do stay licensed, how many are full-time agents?
Exactly.
How many people don't have a job or aren't? No offense to all the moms out there who tend to your kids and all the stuff, but they get a deal. Yeah. They do a deal or two a year. It's soccer mom agent, whatever you want to call them. That who you want, handling your biggest asset that you have.
Yeah, side gigging is. It's one of the biggest things that we see, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like I've always felt like having a license it's a great like I think everybody should do it. Everybody should get a license. Why? Because it's a great plan B, and totally. It just edifies you as getting into that entrepreneur space, right? Yeah. Even though you're under a brokerage and whatnot, at the end of the day, it's your business.
Yeah.
So what I like about the opportunity of the license as well is that, like, it really tests you. Like, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Like, I want to do my own, build my own business and get into call my own shots, like we were talking about earlier. And then when push comes to shove, it's like, I need to be, handheld. You know? And it's not going to happen as an entrepreneur. I mean, we see it all the time, right? We have to adjust, we have to pivot, kind of roll with the punches as they come in, especially when we start building teams, when we start kind of aiming, bigger and getting out of those, comfort zones. And there's so many things that change, in every single aspect, right? Life changes, dynamic and relationship changes. Your mindset changes, for the worst or the better, but it's gonna change. So you're not gonna stay, in that same, bubble until you choose to make a leap. You mentioned being stagnant for a few years, so still doing deals and or transactions and doing that sort of thing. But when you say stagnant, are you talking about it from like a mindset standpoint or a goal setting standpoint? What was that like?
So I would always set goals, but I didn't have my attention fully on the most important things in order to get to those goals. So when you're wasting half your week for the party and for going out and getting drinks from Thursday through Sunday, like, you can't win working 50% of your life and then Monday feeling like crap and then finally feeling good again on Thursday and then going back to it, right? I don't care if I worked out every morning. Didn't matter. Your mind is still foggy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yep, for sure.
So, I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I got all the things, mortgage, car payments, and just got to the point where like every month I just felt like we were going down this path of like I can't get out of this cycle.
Yeah.
And so I started probably taking in some personal assessments beginning of 2019, end of 2018, got to the point where I was looking at taking a job, and then Leslie was going to kind of fill in and do, because Leslie started to work with me in 2017, my wife, and so we were trying to figure out how we were going to make them both work, and came to the point my wife, I was out on a trip for this company that it was like hey, come out, check it out, and she was at a company meeting, and she was like, I can't do this without you. We have to figure this out. And I'm like, all right. So I wrote down a bunch of goals on my way home on the flight out of emotion, and started to analyze those when I got home. And I started doing the work from a fundamental standpoint of working what my goal was monetarily, and then how many deals that would look like, and then how many touches I would need to make on people to get to that. So I started doing that work for about 3 months, hard. Got some
kind of reverse engineering the outcome. Yeah,
100%. Got some good traction coming in, but it was still at the point where I was like, dude, this is getting scary. Like, we're paying our mortgage on the freaking 30th day of every month. Yeah. Like, this doesn't feel good. And so every month it's like, God, please just let us get through this month. Like, I know you have a plan. I don't know what it is, but we're, just keep getting us through. And so at the time, I was scrolling through Instagram, and Andy Frizella's Instagram popped up, and I was like, why don't I follow him? And why did it unfollow? And so I followed him. I started following him again, and then started listening to the MFCEO podcast. And so this like 3 months I'm listening, and he has the podcasts around 75 Hard, and I was like, oh man, I should do that. I got this party next week, and that's down. Okay, I'm going to do it after. I'm going to do it then. I'm going to put it on the calendar. Yeah. I'm going to do it. It was like I was kicking the can down the road. And about that same time, I'm a big hip hop rap fan, and Nipsey Hussle gets shot, dies. And that was like a turning point for me, just because of what he was all about with owning real estate, to be able to pass down to generations and have generational wealth. And I thought to myself, like, dude, if it ends for me, my family is going to be saddled with debt. We have nothing. I have nothing to give to them. Like, this is brutal. Yeah. So
that's a big wake up call.
For sure.
It's a big wake up call.
So interesting that's what made me aware. But then so like it took me about 4 weeks, and we went to a Cinco de Mayo party that was actually on the 4th. I woke up on Cinco de Mayo and was like, screw this, dude. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm starting today. So I started 75 Hard that day. Went all the way through it, made it through. And I just kept having these like breakthroughs when I was in it mentally, where I faced a lot of stuff I'd never faced before internally.
In what sense? Are you talking about self-doubt? I mean, at this point,
we're self-doubt, like really like how I was attaching myself to things from my past that I really wasn't, tying myself to the story I had told myself for a long time, that I had written for myself, continuously like lying to myself and not being honest with myself and those around me. And when you continuously tell yourself something and you make the lies and the dishonesty okay, you can never truly become your best self.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%.
So it took me through a lot of that. And honestly, within, I would say, I got from the time that I started, 90 days after start date, our business was growing. Like, you could see the progress. I was, if it didn't have to do with my business, my family, my faith, or my workouts, it was not happening. Like, don't call me. I'm not going to the party. I'm not going to hang out. I got kids baseball and that's it. Like, that's all. So super focused. 15 days after I finished, Leslie was like, I think I want to do 75 hard. I was like, cool, I'll do it with you again.
Nice.
So I started it again. And we both did it, and we went all the way through until October. So basically for almost 6 months, I was like on the 75 hard program, and it drastically changed my life and the trajectory of our business.
You've done it 3 times to date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think was the biggest, I don't want to say takeaway. There's so many that happen, when you're, because of the fact that you're being introspective about everything.
Yeah.
So you're putting yourself in a role of responsibility.
Yeah.
About you, your surroundings, your actions, your results, right? And that absolutely just changes the course of anything that's going on.
For sure.
So with that in mind, what do you think was the biggest catalyst to you changing and actually having that leap in progress? Because you were stagnant.
Yeah.
And then you went kind of on the negative side of stagnant, where you were struggling. Mm-hmm. And then 90 days later, like boom, like you're hitting growth. You're hitting. What do you feel was the biggest ignition there? Honesty
within myself, about myself, honesty about who I was portraying myself to be, and not following through on what I was portraying.
Yeah.
It really got me to a point where I was like, well, if you're going to portray being this person, you have to be that person. Yeah. So you've got to cut the bullshit and be real. And so it got me to the best point me and my wife could have imagined. For our relationship, my relationship with my kids grew. Our business grew almost 400% in the next 12 months. So we went from, I think I made $212,000 the previous year. The following year, with all of our business, we did over $1 million. So, wow. Inside of a year, now it was 4x our regular business almost, and then some investment stuff. So, and then continue to grow the following year even more.
So at this point, was that after you jumped into development? Were there shifts?
I started jumping into development right after that. Yeah. During 75 Hard, I acquired our first, me and a partner acquired our first piece of property that we entitled at like 32nd baseline for 30 townhomes. And it was a really good acquisition and a really good turn. And we acquired that, and it was like, we did that in 13 months. Like,
Yeah.
what? That wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
And so
No, you were focused.
super focused.
Yeah.
Focused. That's what it takes, man. You just gotta be, look, man, you have to be obsessed. If
Yeah.
you're not obsessed in what you are trying to accomplish, you will have a very hard time accomplishing it.
You know, I think there's a couple of things, right, that I want to unpack there. We do get obsessed about, you know, the journey.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that I feel like the entrepreneur personality is going to get obsessed about whatever is in front of them, whether
100%.
or not it's intentional or not.
Yeah.
Right. You know, for example, you got into that habit, right, of just, you know, parties from Wednesday to Sunday, and then, like, you kind of got, you know, you went all into that. Once the picture changed, you
I've
went
been all in on that for freaking 20 years, man.
Yeah. and then once the picture changed and you got collected, the intention behind it and the focus changed. So what happened? Your results changed, right? But none of that comes to fruition unless we take responsibility. Like, it's one of the biggest things, and I feel like it can be one of the scariest things, to think that you have nobody else to blame for failures, right? To think that we have nobody else to blame for, you know, whether or not, you know, we're making the right moves in life. Like, it's all on us. If it goes wrong, it's my fault. If it goes right, it's also my fault, right? So changing that perspective on personal power and responsibility, I think it's huge. And you know, whatever the vehicle for that, for you, obviously 75 Hard just made a huge impact and
100%.
and totally changed the course of your life, right? And it's like however I guess the calling or the message is delivered, it's up to us to pick it up and run with it.
100%.
I mean, for you, like Nipsey Hussle, right?
100%, man. I think, you know, we all have a calling. It's just a matter of what you do with that calling, and if you choose to listen to it. Yeah. And then at that point, if you do listen to it, what you're willing to put into it.
Yeah, if you embrace it, right?
It's always going to cost more than you thought it was going to cost. Like, always. Yeah.
I feel like sometimes it requires a degree of pain to have a catalyst moment, always. Right? And because I mean, I've heard, I know people who have come across or kind of like, you know, landed on you know, this hard decision making that shifts their life without having to go through the, you know, the entirety of pain, right? Because of, you know, they just found it. They got to a point where it's like, okay, cool. I'm not necessarily in pain emotionally or financially or anything. It's just like it clicks and there's a change. However, for 99% of the population, I'm included in that 99%. Yeah. Like, I feel like we have to get fucked up somehow at some point of the journey to say, okay, cool. There's got to be a change here.
Well, and
there has to be some you know, something that gives and like, this can't be it.
Pain means different things to different people, right? Yeah. Like, pain is just uncomfort. So if you're getting uncomfortable and maybe it's making sales calls and that, you know, you've got the 100-pound telephone, like that's painful, right? But the more you get through it and the more you do it, the less painful it feels, and you grow from that. Yeah. So when you're growing, you're gonna feel pain. Yeah. Go to the gym, get through your final reps. And when those final reps suck, go through a couple more, and it's going to be painful. But guess what? You get growth. Your muscles grow. Same thing with your brain. You got to put yourself through a little bit more. One more rep. You can always do one more rep. And if you continuously do those little extra incremental things, you'll continue to grow. It's painful to do them. Yeah. It's painful. We don't want to. Our brain tries to give us the easy way out always. Yeah. But if you can train your brain to say one more, I can do one more. I can do one more. You're going to put in 365x the work of every other person, 99.99% of the people out there, And at the end of the day, if you're making that many more touches, if you're doing that many more reps, if you're training your brain to go through that much more, you are going to be so much stronger than the next guy when you come in competition with him.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. One of the things that I learned through just workouts, and I learned this about myself, right? For the longest time, I would be lifting or working on a set, right? And I would get to 7 or 8, and I would pause. I would like rest, and I just got like it hit me. After a while, I was like, I'm doing this on like it's on automatic. Like I don't even need to stop. I'm just like, I know I want to do 12 reps, but I'm stopping at 8 for some stupid reason. Just
keep going, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, then the thought after that was like, where else am I doing that in my life? Like, it's not just about the reps, right? It's okay. Is it when I'm being, tenacious about work and a new project or taking on something else? Do I stop for no reason in the middle of and why? Like, it's self-sabotage.
100%.
Like, so we get these like micro red flags, right? And they're easy to miss.
Yeah.
But those little, subconscious, behaviors they shine a big light on how we operate as an individual and a lot of the rest of the stuff.
Totally.
So I mean, that was an interesting thing that I learned about myself while going through workouts, right? So what I do is like, okay, if I'm stopping at 8, I'm gonna add another 5 to the back end of this thing. Yeah. So I would just kind of correct myself along the way, and I got out of that habit. But the big epiphany was like, shit, man, I'm doing, how is that translating to the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And how is that translating to my work? How is it translating to my my financial state, my relationships? Am I, I don't know, taking things for granted and just stopping along the way as opposed to just pushing through with what I said I would, and being truthful to my own word, standing in my truth. So I mean, there's a lot of self-discovery that happens. I feel like when you just kind of flip that switch.
Yeah. Well, and we have muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
So if your body knows that you're stopping at 7 or 8, it's gonna stop at 7 or 8. But that's why you should switch up your workouts every 90 days, right? Yeah. To give yourself, to shock your body and make it go into a different state to continue growth or continue cut, whatever you're trying to do. It's no different with your work.
Yeah.
So your body, you tell yourself, I got 20 calls to make today.
Yeah.
You get to 20 calls and you're cool, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, dude, how much time you got left in the day?
You got another 30 calls in you.
You could do more, so go do more. You want more output, you have to put out more. Yeah. Like if you want more in your life, you have to be willing to do more than you think it's going to take to get there.
Yeah.
And most of us have big goals, and if you have big goals, you have to have a plan of attack. And if you don't have a plan, you will fail. And so that plan has to be, I'm going to do these things, and then I'm going to do these things.
Right.
And then I'm going to do these things, because you can't leave it to the bare minimum to try and get by, because some other guy is going to be doing the bare minimum plus 10%, and he's going to whoop your ass.
Exactly. Yeah, especially in the competitive state that we're in, right? I mean, or competitive markets that we're in the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to stay on top of stuff, right? It's demanding in all levels. So I feel like once we demand, that extra from ourselves, like, everything else is just, okay, that's just the way things are, and it becomes an easy thing. As opposed to being, it becomes, you're being pulled by the engine as opposed to trying to push the cart.
100%.
So yeah. And then, so 2019, all this is going on. You Forexed your business pretty much. And then how do you get to the point where you're developing and having massive projects? I mean, it's a big, like, the last 4 years have been, tough for a lot of people, right? Yeah. How have they been, like, your thriving, your most thriving years so far?
Yeah. So we, after we entitled that one piece of land, we actually had a realtor reach out to us on a project that was a phase 2 of a development at 9th Avenue in Roosevelt, 12 townhomes that her son lived in the first phase. And she was like, hey, I don't know what's going on with this project. Here's the contact. And we reached out to them, and they actually said, yeah, we'd be open to selling. So we went under contract in January of 2020 on that. We had a 60-day due diligence. So we went in under contract end of January. Pandemic hits. Basically March 16th, everything shuts down, and we're like, well, shit, what are we going to do? We're going to have 100K go hard here in 2 weeks. So we kind of sit there for about a week, and I'm talking to lenders and I'm talking to friends, and we're all like, everything's frozen, dude.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. Schools,
everything.
What we're going to do. And we don't know what the outlook of the next year was going to look like, but everything's shut down. And so we dropped the project, and we dropped the project, and we moved on. I picked up a house to do spec on at that time. So we had that. We ended up about 5 months later reaching back out to the guy because we had a little more clarity on where we were at market wise, and they still wanted to sell. So we bought that. We bought that property at 9th and Roosevelt, Center 8, and we ended up building that. It was hell because we had to go back and get some code updates to the 18 code because phase 1 had been built prior to that. So we had to go back in this, dude, it was 10 months to get like 7 updates. It was insane.
Yeah, talk about the curves, man.
Awful
Talk
to deal
about
with.
The curve balls,
it was so bad. So we finally got those back, and then, like, of course, costs skyrocket. Thank God the market had an upswing too, so we were kind of even margin wise. And the next 2 years to now of building that, we're a bear. We're sold through 11 of 12 of those. And then over the last couple of years, we've just gone out and through our relationships, picked off some infill locations. We've got an 8 unit, a 12 unit, and a 36 unit, in 2 in Phoenix and 1 in Mesa, that we're doing, that are coming out of the ground. And so we've got those, and then I built some luxury single family stuff over the last couple of years, and then we just continue to grow our real estate business.
Move the goalpost, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, it's part of the evolution. I feel like it. I mean, now if you think back, for example, I don't know, think at 2014. Or when you were, working in Alaska, would you have imagined the stuff that you're doing right now was going to be like doable?
Yes.
And plausible back then?
I've always had a big vision for my life. Yeah. And the vision's far bigger than where we're at now. Yeah. So yeah, 100%. I just didn't know how to get there. Yeah. I didn't have the vehicle. I never had a mentor in my life to give me a plan and show me what to do. Yeah. And so I've taken pieces from different people and put them in place and I feel like that's what I continue to do to, continue to grow and scale, because we're nowhere near where I know we're going. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. I mean, over the last 4 years, you've been able to skyrocket like that. I'm excited to see what's going to happen over the next, 4 years.
Thanks, man.
So somebody getting into the entrepreneur space, what's some piece of advice that you can give them? Maybe some direction.
Got to get your mind right. I would say, number one, it all starts out with mental toughness and what your capacity is to take a beating, because
Yeah.
you're going to. It's
The
gonna
capacity to take a beating.
it's gonna be harder than you think it is, but it's all part of the growth process.
Yeah.
And I like taking a beating. I mean, it cut like in many different forms. Will come to you, and finances and no's and all the hard things. You're gonna hear it, and you have to have a very, very strong mindset to get through what you're gonna feel.
One of my favorite quotes is Mike Tyson's. Is like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the
mouth.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So, and that's exactly what happens, right? Like, we get into it. I mean, we may have some context of what the future is going to hold, what it's going to look like and everything, but then you start getting slapped with, having to bring a property up to code from, previous things that you weren't necessarily planning on, right, from the get-go. But you're already in the journey. Like, it's about, hacking it down as we're in there.
It's part of the process, man. It's all part of the process. And do not lose sight of all of this being for good.
Yeah.
Like, all of it will make you stronger as long as you take the lessons and the quote unquote, what you have as perceived failures. They're not failures until you quit. Yeah. So they're just learning lessons. And so as long as you can take all those losses at the time and use them as learning lessons, you will always have that to grow and win from. So be super open and willing to listen. Push out all negativity in your life whatsoever. I would say if you are getting into entrepreneurship, or you are at the beginning of your journey or somewhere in the middle and you're still trying to figure it out, remove all negativity. At alcohol, drugs, bad relationships, friends that aren't the friends that uplift you and want to be on your journey and grow with you. Get rid of all of them. Go completely remove them all for 6 months and watch your life change completely. Focus on your faith, your fitness, your family, and your fortune. That's it. Those 4 pillars, you focus on those things for 6 months, you will be an unrecognizable human being.
Wow. Faith, fitness, family, fortune.
Yes, sir.
I love it, man. The last question. So that's advice for somebody who's getting into this space, right? Now, let me ask you this. If you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
Oh, man. Find a mentor and focus on growing yourself and a business. Stay away from partying. Stay away from girls. None of it. 99% of it's trouble. I wish that I would have had a mentor who would have spoken some positivity into me to push me in the right direction, because I feel like I had a lot of potential and I didn't see it in myself at the time. I just thought I was what I was, those people have those things. I have what I have, and this is my path, and I'm just going to go on that path.
It's interesting how the awareness of certain things just leads us to think fallacies, right?
100%.
Man, I agree with that a lot. I'll probably tell myself the same thing.
Yeah.
I was always figuring out shit by myself. Like, no, I got this. I'll learn it. But it's just so much slower, man.
It's so much slower, dude. So much slower. And if you can find somebody to grab onto their coattails and they're willing to teach you, and dude, you're in most scenarios now, you're probably going to have to pay for it. Guess what?
You're gonna pay for it either way, like through
blood, sweat and tears, or you're gonna pay for it monetarily.
Borrow the experience.
And guess what? You are going to be more apt to listen if you do pay for it monetarily. Yeah.
Skin in the game.
Go out, throw some money down, go and get yourself a mentor, learn the right things, and you're going to be on the fast track to winning as long as you implement them and take action.
Yeah.
You can't just listen. You can't be a success zombie go to all the seminars, listen to all the things, and not implement them in your life. You have to take in the good stuff, write it all down, put a plan together, put the plan into action, and then continue to rinse and repeat.
I love it, man. It's a great conversation, dude. Thank you for opening up and being vulnerable about the highs, the lows, and everything in your trajectory. If somebody wants to reach out to you, pick your brain on more mindset stuff, I don't know, maybe hit you up with deals or whatnot, where's the best place to find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at the Alex Smith, or you can text me at 480-459-7111.
Savage. I love it. Fam, well, there you guys have it. I mean, it's tenacity is half the battle, right? But you have to own yourself. You have to own your fears. You have to own your responsibility. And more importantly, be willing to come in and then do the work, right? Those ethics
100%.
Matter from the get-go. So
yes, sir.
Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Till next one, stay focused. You got this.